What if I told you that autism isn't a disorder, but a different operating system for the brain? After almost 25 years of navigating life on the spectrum, I've uncovered 5 mind-blowing insights about autism that could revolutionize how you see yourself or someone you love. And if you watch this entire video from start to finish, you'll learn some ways that you can cope with the reality of living with autism if you identify as being on the spectrum, and even transform so-called autistic weaknesses into superpowers, which is how I've outperformed my neurotypical coworkers in some cases. Just a disclaimer though, this is not a comprehensive list, as autism symptoms vary from person to person, and autism affects everyone in different ways. That's why it's called a spectrum. Nor am I attempting to provide an autism diagnosis, as I am not a medical professional and I do not have the authority to do that. But being a person with autism, all of the content in this video does come from my own life experience and research on this particular topic. So if you can identify with any of these traits, you may get some value of this video and be able to use it as a base to move forward. Now, the first way that autism can affect lives is that it makes it harder to build relationships and interact with others. When you have autism, without support, forming close relationships and just interacting with those around you is generally easier said than done for any of the following reasons. You prefer isolation and independence. Notice how I'm alone in this room? Like I often do, you may struggle to connect with others and form close bonds. This can lead to a preference for isolation and independence, as social interactions may feel overwhelming or exhausting. And I know all too well what isolation feels like and the negative effects it can have on your mental well-being. Sometimes, even small talk can feel like diffusing a bomb because of an impaired ability to speak. This can range in severity from using the same words several times in the same sentence, or using very short sentences, or being able to talk but not knowing what to talk about, or in the most severe cases, not really speaking at all. Notice what I did there? Let me tell you one story that I find embarrassing when I think back to it. Back in my high school English classes, our teachers actively encouraged everyone to participate in class discussions about the several books that we would read, from A Doll's House to Animal Farm to A Streetcar Named Desire. In fact, I remember that group discussions during our class book club sessions were graded based on, among other factors, our ability to have discussions and make talking points with our club members about the books that we were reading. And often when I tried to speak or raise a point about a book, I found it hard to come up with stuff off of the top of my head, and the result was something that you might expect out of an autistic person: repeating the same words over and over again, stumbling, and awkward pauses while I tried to figure out how to complete the sentence. All of this happening in front of the whole class. Furthermore, as an autistic person, it certainly didn't help that I felt there was pressure being put on me because of the fact that we were being graded on our class group discussions. And it was all just embarrassing, and it was just one thing that made me wish sometimes that I could also be neurotypical like most of my schoolmates, who I also didn't see eye to eye with in many cases. The reason for this is because autistic people have a different way of thinking and processing information. On the other hand, isolation and other autistic antisocial behavior can also be a hidden strength, as long as it is not for too long of a period of time, and as long as you are focused and committed. This is because it can be an excellent pretense for deep work and creativity, and one positive aspect of being by yourself and being creative is that many of us find satisfaction from being creative. Case in point, I have a psychological need to write these YouTube scripts, to make these videos to provide you with some value and insights, and to improve my writing in general. Anyone with autism able to relate? Comment down below if you can. Now, the second way in which autism affects lives is the double empathy paradox. Unlike with neurotypical people, this is how autism can manifest itself in human communication. An academic with autism named Dr. Damian Milton developed a theory known as double empathy that describes differences in communication and interpretation between those who are and those who are not neurodivergent. To make this as easy as possible to understand, people who have different experiences and perceptions are thought to have a harder time understanding and communicating with each other as opposed to those with similarities to each other. This is particularly evident when autistics and non-autistics communicate, as double empathy manifests as communication and empathy breakdown. The way that neurotypical people communicate is considered the default right way of communicating, so when autistic people behave differently in their communication, that is considered incorrect. The assumption is that autistic individuals have communication deficits. As Dr. Milton himself says, the double empathy problem refers to a breakdown in mutual understanding that can happen between any two people, and hence a problem for both parties to contend with, yet more likely to occur when people of very differing dispositions attempt to interact. Within the context of exchanges between autistic and non-autistic people, however, the locus of the problem has traditionally been seen to reside in the brain of the autistic person. But the truth is, we are all human and we all have different ways of communicating. Just because you are autistic and you communicate differently doesn't mean you're broken. In fact, there are some great ways to leverage your unique communication style, which I'm going to show you right now. Capitalize on recognition and attention to detail that may not be present in neurotypical individuals. Another one I can relate to. This detail is great, for example, for pointing out errors that may seem minor but can be of crucial importance, yet neurotypical people may not notice them. Practice conversational and social skills. If you struggle to make conversation, this is invaluable. You can't possibly have a social life if you don't have social skills, right? So, if this is one of your weaknesses, attend classes that work on conversational skills. Expose yourself to as many opportunities as possible to chat with others. It may be uncomfortable to start practicing, but just do it and you'll see vast improvements in your social skills. Find connections through special interests. This is how I made friends throughout my school years. I always thought of my intense interests as a channel for meaningful social connections with like-minded individuals, and I used my hobbies and passions rather than relying on small talk to build my current group of longtime friends. Don't be afraid to embrace written communication. Writing is a skill that everyone needs to get by in life, and autistic people often find communicating this way to be easier than spoken words. Leverage this by using emails, reports, or other written formats to clearly express ideas and get across everything you want to say. Now, the third way in which autism affects lives is that it makes you more susceptible to mental health issues. For one thing, this goes back to the idea that autistic people often prefer isolation and independence. The issue, though, is that the lack of social interaction and support can contribute to feelings of loneliness and depression. Let me tell you a story that ties directly into this. For at least 7 years, I used to have so many days when I was so isolated in my bedroom or on my laptop, just trying to do work, which many times wasn't actually deep work at all because I was distracting myself with YouTube or browsing the internet. Sometimes when I was on the computer overstimulating myself or simply spending far too much time on it, I would act like I cared about the time in front of my family, or get so lost that I ended up staying in front of whatever screen I was staring at until well after midnight and going to bed and getting insufficient sleep that night. Partly because of that, I lost several years of my life with the feeling that I had almost nothing to show for it, and I felt terrible about myself, which only contributed to other mental health issues and made me feel even worse about my situation just a year before the date I posted this video. Not only that, but several times I woke up with a headache, many other nights I woke up in the middle of the night, and I could never shake the feeling that I was addicted to my laptop and phone. None of which are fun, believe me. Additionally, the challenges in communication and understanding social cues can lead to misunderstandings and further isolation. But if you've been isolated for too long, the best thing you can do to cope is take a break and get out of the house. Go outside, practice those communication skills, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, whatever you need to do to refresh your brain and recharge. Number 4, nutrition, the autism-gut connection. Some autistic people may be vulnerable to missing out on various nutrients for the simple reason that you're eating a much smaller variety of foods because that's what you prefer. But the problem with preferring to eat the same foods over and over again is that it limits how many different types of vitamins, minerals, proteins, etc. you can get every day. And some studies have shown that proper nutrition is a seriously underrated way to improve your mental health. In this book, The Better Brain, the authors discuss how neglect of nutrition and dietary supplementation is a serious defect in medicine generally and in the field of mental health particularly. Several of the studies that they cite as evidence throughout the book show the effectiveness of multi-nutrient supplements in treating conditions such as autism spectrum disorder. In Chapter 5, they discuss how they found through multiple studies that Children and adults with autism who were given various nutritional supplements as opposed to a placebo saw improvements in various symptoms such as self-harm, hyperactivity, and poor functioning, much more than with medications. More research was needed at the time of writing, according to the authors, but as they quoted, it's a logical assumption that improving nutrition should confer some benefit on these behaviors through increasing the amount of nutrients available for the brain. All of this aside from the obvious fact that getting in your fruits, vegetables, fibers, proteins, nuts, vitamins, minerals, etc., while minimizing junk and ultra-processed food is one big reason why people in countries like Japan and Italy live longer on average than people in the West. Additionally, on this channel, I'll sometimes talk about having new experiences and getting out of your comfort zone as a way to improve your quality of life, especially from the point of view of a person with autism. The point is, trying different foods or even new ways of preparing and eating your favorite foods is in itself a new experience. The bottom line, eat a wide variety of healthy foods and don't be afraid to try new things. Just to be clear though, nutrition alone is not a silver bullet and must be combined with other strategies such as behavioral therapy. Now, the fifth way in which autism can affect lives is a preference for rigid routines. Whether it's a museum, restaurant, or a cafe, or whatever, sometimes people with autism will prefer to go to the same places repeatedly for multiple reasons, perhaps the biggest of which is that autistic people often find that routine provides comfort. I know this firsthand because I know that many of us tend to find comfort and ease in the familiar. This does apply to a lot of neurotypical people as well, but not necessarily in the same ways. Maybe it's because new places or experiences can overwhelm many autistic people since it's not something that we're used to. For example, sometimes I'll go to a restaurant I've never tried before, or that's unique and exotic to me, or I'll have Chinese takeout, which admittedly isn't my favorite if my family orders it, and I'll get overwhelmed and wonder to myself, will I like this food? How will I react if I don't? What will my family think of me if they call me out for looking grossed out? Whether it's because you're more familiar with the food options, or because you like the atmosphere or sensory profile of a particular place, or because you don't want to go out of your way to go somewhere new, or whatever your reasons are, the fact is that many autistic people are generally less capable of handling stressors like this effectively, and I speak from personal experience when I say that. Although autism admittedly has its pros, the cons arguably outweigh the pros in many cases. Don't lose hope just yet though. There are ways that you can cope effectively if you've been diagnosed with autism and treat some of the many common symptoms that come along with it. And remember, autism isn't really a disorder. What it actually is neurotypical society failing to fully understand and adapt. You gotta build systems that fit you rather than trying to fit in. And that brings an end to this video. Let me know in the comments, what's one autistic trait you've turned into an advantage? Your insight could help thousands in the community. And if you're ready to unlock your neurodivergent potential, smash that subscribe button and hit that bell. Thanks for joining me on this journey of neurodivergent discovery. Until next time, keep stimming and stay extraordinary.